Dark Satellite Media.
Hey, hello. Welcome to another episode of Red River Podcast. Just doing the same thing, man. The check-in as we're all kind of dealing with this quarantine pandemic fucking thing. Today, I get to talk to someone whose music I've admired and loved for the last 20 years. I talked to him on the other show, If I Ruled the World, and today I get to talk to Q Unique, a.k.a. Anthony Quiles.
Yes.
What's going on?
What's up, brother?
Just hanging, man. So
yeah.
What's the vibe like over in Brooklyn?
For me personally, I found myself having to step away from the media for sure and all the politics, because every time I stepped out in order to do the simple things like get food, I found my like anxiety kicking into high gear. I found myself like looking at people like, where the fuck is your 6 feet at, as far as staying away from me and things like that. And now I'm starting to see like little things getting put into play where they're only letting a handful of people into the supermarket, a handful of people into the Walgreens. They're making people line up outside of the butcher shop, and it's just strange. And we're constantly hearing sirens. Like, it's constant. It's almost insane how constant it is. And it's actually kind of quiet right now, but like during the day, it's just over and over and over and over. You just hear ambulance all day long.
Yeah, man. Today I got bagels in the morning, which is a rare thing. But like same thing. It's like I'm waiting on a line to get a fucking bagel. And everyone has their mask, and there are some people, like you mentioned, because they don't respect that 6 feet. No. And it's one of those weird things where I'm just like, you have a mask on and you have like, it's like, how do you not figure out that you're just kind of like a little too close? And like the paranoia, once you accidentally click on like a YouTube video and you see someone gasping, there was a video posted something on Facebook, and I clicked onto it, and automatically the video played where it's like somebody like fighting for breath with this virus. And for me, I remember having pneumonia in 2007, and that was like one of the scariest times of my life. I'm like, I couldn't believe. You take for granted that you could breathe. Like it's like, oh, I'm breathing. But when someone takes that away from you, this thing, it's just like, I can't comprehend it. So from there, once you indulge those thoughts, you do. I don't know. For me, like it affects me where I'm just like, oh shit, like I don't want this, and no. I want to take precautions, and but like most of us, like I don't know what the fuck we're doing. I'm just.
It almost feels, there's a part of me that feels like we're being duped. Like it feels like a big prank, or I'm looking at it in a more light-hearted way as opposed to like some deep level conspiracy theorist who's trying to sell it as we're all being duped. They're doing this to sell A, B, and C and control and take away your rights. And I got as the type of artist I am, I got to push back from that kind of stuff. I can't dive into it because I just feel like when I look at things like that, I simply look at it as, well, I'm not part of that system, so I will never know the truth. I feel like in order to know the real truth, I don't think you're going to find it online. Me personally, I could be wrong, but I don't think you're going to find it online.
Listen, I'm with you. My cousin's in Texas. He just moved. He lived in Corona his whole life, and he moves to fucking Texas. And he's like texting me about these conspiracy theories, and he's kind of like having fun with it. And like you said, for me, so I'm gonna turn it into me. I don't know the truth. And I know that whatever I find on YouTube is not going to be the fucking, I don't know if it's going to be the truth, but I doubt it.
No.
So for me to basically subscribe to something, I might as well, you know, it just like, I don't have that type of faith. And to me, I know that I have to wake up. I know that I have to make rent. I know that I have to do a job. And that's kind of like, you know, like I want my friends and family to be straight. So that's kind of like how I'm playing it.
Yeah, simple.
Yeah.
Simple. Yeah, that's where I'm at.
And it's funny because, you know, like the people that you came up with, like all those old nonfiction lyrics, you know, when you hear them, you're just like, oh, shit, yeah, you know?
Yeah.
Shout out to
Bill is kind of a prophet in that sense, you know? Like, him and Gore-Tex.
Him and Gore.
All of them, they're like, you know, but that was always their deal, was to dive into that. And even when I built with Bill on the side, like he really, you know, he's been in that world and having knowledge of that world for so long. So it's like, but even he's even in a place where he's doing his best to just keep everything simple and record. He's doing a grip of recording, a grip of releasing, and just keeping it as safe and simple as possible. You know?
Yeah, he's got waiting for that Gorilla Twins record.
Yeah, him and Nems, man, that's crazy.
That's crazy, really man. Crazy. Like I've seen Nems on so many features through the last, like, you know, going up like the last 10 years. I know he was on you did a few tracks with him.
Yeah, yep.
And now I guess with Gorilla Monsoon, like I just feel like a lot of people like he picked up steam with that, and I think to me that was like one of the best records of last year. I couldn't believe how just, you know, and I think what it is too with him is his lyricism. It's complex, but not really. So it's simple enough where you could follow it, and his punchlines are really what make it. Where
they're well written punchlines, and him as there's a few types of different rapper lanes that I look at, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what's impressive about him, I always put guys like him in the same box. And excuse using the box thing, because I hate as a musician putting things in boxes. But if I had to create a lane, let's just say I put a lane.
Sure.
Him, Sean Price, ODB. What I admire about those kind of rappers is that they reach this place. I don't know how they do it, but they reach this place where they no longer give a fuck about anything around them. And it's so interesting that they could fully be themselves and not like really shy away from anything. And it's amazing to watch, you know. Sean Price was, to me, like when you listen to him and when you seen him, it was like as advertised, you know. It's like, and ODB too. And so you just like, when you see that, it's like there's something very real about that.
Something so true. Like, it's funny that you say compare him to Sean Price, because that's a really good comparison. I liked Helter Skelter, but it wasn't until like Monkey Bars that I was like, holy shit. I'm like, this is like, I think the production, like, I don't know, it was just different. Like, he just embraced this thing. And, you know, I know that he was a big comic guy like you, and he embraced that thing. But like, when you heard his wordplay, like I said, it was, you know, it wasn't like Aesop Rock where you just like kind of like following it along. But he had it was just those punchlines. You wait for that punchline, and it's like you're watching Def Comedy Jam. Like, you're waiting for that line, and everyone's like, oh, shit. You know, you get up from your seat. And then what also helps is that production, man. That production, you know, it's just, when it hits right, it just feels right to me. But I like everything, you know. So I get
Sean, to me, Sean is, he ended up becoming top 10 best ever.
I think so. Me too.
He brought something to the table that we might never ever see again. So it's like, you know, aside from Nems coming close to that, but being who Nems is, which is a little more aggressive, a little more bite to him. But aside from that, when I see dudes like that, where they just have this like, I don't give a fuck if the house is on fire type of attitude, it's like,
and no facade. Like, they're very, you know, they're very open. Sean working construction, you know, like they're just like, there's like rapping ain't.
They're not trying to impress you like a lot of rappers. Even myself back in the day when I found myself trying to figure out what Q Unique was going to be. I said this to another person that was talking to me. I was like, there's times when I look at certain mixtapes that I put out, and I look at the cover of the mixtape, and I go, I hate that guy. And I'm actually looking at myself, but I know what I was thinking when
What
I
you were
did
thinking,
that,
yeah.
and where my mind was, and it was a stupid place. So, with them, it's kind of like you kind of got exactly. They knew who they were. They know. Well, Nems is the only one obviously still here, but all three of them, they knew who they were, and there was no trying to make it pretty. It was just like I said, advertised as is, as advertised.
And sometimes the best musician, the best rapper, like a lot of times it doesn't matter. You won't get heard,
Old Dirty wasn't a great rapper, but what he had was genius. So it's like when you listen to that first Old Dirty Bastard album, it's like this is genius. Like this is ridiculous.
Yeah,
but
you hear Shimmy Shimmy Ya, and even like the second verse. Like, how many times do you hear a verse in reverse, that was only like really, when you break it down, it was like 4 lines. Like it was just such an interesting thing. But when you drop Shimmy Shimmy Ya, everyone knows it, man.
He just had that.
Yeah.
He just had that. And a lot of those rhymes, if you know the history, they're not even his. They were written for him. Yeah. Or he'll take something that Jizza wrote 10 years ago and he used it for, he was bizarre in that way, but it worked. I can't hate it. Because he was more than just a rapper. There's those dudes that could step out, and they're just more than just, like you said, somebody that's just trying to kill you with some sort of skill. And that's a whole nother topic, but those 3 dudes are just interesting to me.
Did you get into the Wu-Tang Hulu series?
I love the series. But I'm a super Wu fan, so I'm more biased. I've had some of my friends say, "Oh, horrible actor." I'm like, dude, it's Wu-Tang. It's not. We're not looking at Goodfellas. We're looking at We're looking at.
That's
Wu-Tang.
how I feel, because
calm down.
Why is it? I love social media. I feel like if you use social media, I was listening to Chuck D on the Quiles podcast, right? And he's dropping gems, and he's saying, if you use it as a tool, it's great, but if you let it use you, then it's not great. And it resonated with me because I felt that way about certain things. A lot of people are like, oh, I can't, fuck Facebook, fuck Instagram, like I got to take a break from this. And I'm thinking, like, what are you using it for that you can't take this? Like, what's going on in your life?
Because people are overly dramatic, and they what I've noticed is that there's a few people that I followed who I love and I'm cool with, but when I read what they're posting, they there's a lot of them that make it like the world, it's me against the world attitude. I'm like, dude, your planet isn't big enough to even think that the world, like Tupac had that,
that's why it was me against the world.
Yeah, it's like, it's so strange, and it's like that. So that's where it gets to, and you look at a lot of these people post, and it's like, man, that's another thing that I have to steer clear of, and that's why I don't dive into the politics, religion conversations, because I'm doing my best. I'm doing my best.
Yeah.
To have a no drama zone in my life. Like, I don't want it. I'd rather be super artsy.
Yes.
And just keep on creating. That's my path. Like, finally finding myself. I'm just an artsy guy, man. That's it. I'm not the guy with the gold chain. I'm not the guy that's trying to be Captain Hip Hop or even Captain Rock. I'm just the guy that just likes to make art, and that's it. I'm not trying. Somebody, I'm not going to say who they were. Somebody that I know that's pretty popular.
It was Post Malone. You could say it.
Nah. We were backstage, and he was, he knows me for a long time, and he tried to crack a joke like, "Oh, Q thinks he's a rocker now." And I had to I had to stop smiling. Like, it was that tense, and I was like, I think you got me mistaken.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to be anything. I just know what I can do, and I'm going to do it. I don't need to be a rocker. I don't need to be a rapper. I'm just being me.
Just making,
that's it.
Just making music. Like, listen, if I could rap, I would. I just know that I'm like better at certain things. Like, you could sing, you could, like, you're arguably one of the greatest rappers of the last 20 years. Like, I'll say that to anyone.
Nah.
I'm telling you.
I don't know about that, but thank you.
Listen, believe me. Let me let me put aside the props for you. But and if you could fucking sing too, which you can, like, who would have known? Like, you're like,
I didn't even know.
Yeah,
it was friends around. When you have certain friends around you that are supportive, whether it's Fieldy or Mike Dijan or a few others, and they're like pushing you to, yo, man, you could do this, so keep on going. I mean, that's all I needed, Even Crazy Legs from the Rocksteady, he was actually, funny enough, he's the first guy to, and I think I might have told you this in the past, but he's the first guy to notice and say, go with that. And he's like a B-boy, an OG icon, and even he knew, you know what I mean? So, but I don't want to go into. No, I'm not trying to pat myself on the back, but it was just an awkward situation. That's why I posted a couple of days ago. I was watching the Stooges documentary, and Iggy Pop.
Oh, that's right. Okay, yeah.
At the end of the movie, he said something that I was like, that's what it is. He was like, I don't want to belong to the hip hop people. I don't want to belong to the punk rock people. I don't want to belong to the glam people. I just want to be. And that shit, my brain almost exploded because I was like, exactly, dude. Exactly.
Yeah, whenever you hear something, whenever you hear something like that, that resonates with you, that's the beauty of it, which brings me back to the Chuck D thing, which is what he said, because I feel like, for people like you or I, obviously me on a smaller scale, like, I use these things to, like, put forward some podcasts, some videos, some acoustic songs, things like that, where I feel like, it makes me, going back to the Hulu thing, we were talking, where people, because I have some friends who were bashing that show too, and I'm thinking, like, what is good enough for you? Like, here you are, we have an 8-episode or 10-episode fucking show about Wu-Tang, like fucking Wu-Tang. Like, why are you push? Like, just because you're able to voice your shitty opinion, like, at some point, like, these people make this show for people like us. Yeah. Like, it's a fucking Wu-Tang show. Like, shut the fuck up. Yeah, watch it.
It's that's obviously ultimately the hardest thing about social media is it's a vast ocean of opinion, and that's the only thing I wish. As crazy as this is going to sound, I wish that was under control, because it's way too much, and it sways too many people to think and do stupid 24 hours a day. And it's just too much, adding a like button to everything. It's almost like I wish that was never created, and dislikes and commentary. It's like, yo, just watch it.
Yeah.
And mind your business. How about that?
Yeah, just say something.
If you like it, share it.
Say something like, yo, I feel bad even, like, shitting on movies, because I think the older I get, the more I know the amount of work, because I know people that have made movies. I know people that have made and like, at a certain point, I'm like, you know what? I don't like this, but I guarantee you someone will like this. So for me, huh?
No, I'm saying you're right.
Yeah,
I feel the same way.
So it's just like, at that point, it's like, this ain't for me, but who am I to, like, if you like, whatever band, it's like, it ain't my thing. Because, like, even when people were like, oh, great song that you wrote, and I'm like, cool. Yeah. I'm like, but in my head, I'm thinking, like, I know there's like 10 people that hate this.
I gotta say, as a sidebar or segue, and sure. I've been watching you for a while now.
Cool.
And I think your music is really fucking good, man.
Like,
man. I really dig it. I dig what you're doing. I'm definitely paying attention. You got my eyes, like, constantly looking for what you're doing, and it's really cool. Like, I saw the last video, you put it together, like even the way you're, like, just, it's inspiring to me, because as much as you want to say, well, Q Unique this and that, and sure, I got the little history with the arsonist and stuff, but I'm still in the same place where 2-3 days ago I started learning how to use Premiere and editing my own videos, and
yes,
dudes like you, I'm watching and I'm like, man, that's dope. Like, you're putting shit together, and you're doing everything from, like, I've seen you, like, for a while now, posting
DIY
band rehearsals,
yeah.
or shows, and then you're doing acoustic shit, and it's like, you got me like, man, I want to do some shit too, man. That shit is cool. Like it's
Man.
us being like-minded. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Creatives.
For sure.
You know,
Whatever it
so
is, man.
I like that.
Awesome. I appreciate that because I look at people. You know, I was having this conversation with someone, I forgot, because they're always like, oh, you're so helpful when someone's doing something. I feel like you try to connect them with other, you know, if someone needs a bass player,
Yes.
even like with you, like, you know, so
Yeah, you did with the Mark.
To segue, right? So like my buddy Mark plays drums in the band Take It Back Sunday, which is a pretty goddamn big band.
Yeah.
And he and I were always fucking around trying to do hip hop stuff. I'm not a hip hop guy, neither is he. When it comes down to it, we were looking at these song structures and we're like, we don't get it. So Mark meets Danny, and from there, in my head, I was like, man, you should really link up with this dude Q Unique, and I gave him like the history and stuff. And man, did that work out or what?
It definitely worked out to the point where me and Mark we're already comfortable where we drive each other crazy. You know what I mean? So it's like it's such an interesting dynamic. He's an interesting dude.
Oh, so interesting.
and he and I have been able to, and it's a funny story because you were the initial person to connect everything, right? And he had reached out to me, and initially I blew him off. I'm being 100% honest with you. I blew him off. I was like, my attitude was like, yeah. But I was like focused on like 10. I'm usually my plate is so full of projects, and I do it on purpose.
I love it. Me too.
So by the time he got at me, I was like, yeah, I'll get to it. And then when he had contacted me, it was November. And all the holidays came in, so I easily forgot about it. Like it was like Mark who, like
yeah.
And I don't know if you know the rest of the story, but he bumps into Mike Dijan at a vegan restaurant, and
they are vegans.
they're talking, and somebody says King's Bounty, and Mark goes, "Wait, you're in King's Bounty?" And he goes, "Yeah." He goes, "You know Q?" He's like, "Yeah, he's the singer." He says, "Do me a favor. Tell him I said thank you for blowing me off." So Mike looks at him. He doesn't really know him, and he goes,
"Yeah,
all right. If you want me to tell him that, I'll tell him that. But just be warned."
Yeah.
And Mark was like, "Wait, no, don't tell him that. Don't tell him." But Mike tells me anyway, and I felt like a jerk. So I had reached out to him, and the first thing that I think surprised Mark was the first beat I chose, which was a very super radio commercial thing that they created.
Absolutely.
It was the first thing I went to, and he's like, and it was funny because he was like, you know, that's like for the radio. And I'm like, yeah, I do.
Was it the Irish one?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I immediately was drawn to that. And let me tell you something. And I'm going to be 100% honest with this as well. Before you did this whole connecting the dots, I wasn't planning on doing any new Q Unique stuff for a while. I had, after the Mechanic, I felt kind of spent, and I was like, all right, I think it's time to like put this on hiatus and chill for a minute. I'm really enjoying King's Bounty, and the Stillwell thing was just at that time was just starting to rev up again. And so Q Unique was going to become a back burner on hiatus thing, and I didn't know when I was going to return to it. And for some reason, this is where it becomes very, what Rakim says, God consciousness, where the universe just does what it does.
For sure.
And you can't explain it. And all of a sudden, from being the guy that says, I'm not sure if I want to do this right now, 7 songs pop out like that. Boom.
Yeah. And
it was like, I was dumbfounded, and Mark was like, I can't believe this, and even Dan was tripping. And
the beats are good,
the beats are good. Everybody from Taking Back Sunday's on it, minus the singer, which is also very unique. Sonny from P.O.D. just handed in a verse.
Oh, cool. I didn't know that.
And Fieldy's going to play a bass on one of the songs. So it's a very unique project in the fact that all of these rocker dudes are coming in on it, and they're participating.
Yeah.
So right now there's no predictable features. I don't even want to say the other feature because I don't want to ruin it, but overall, it's just like it's trippy that this happened, dude. Because like I said, I wasn't planning on doing anything in hip hop. To be honest with you, I don't know where my head is at when it comes to hip hop currently. I'm not a hater like that. Like, I'm not like one of those cycles that's like, fucking trap music, man. It's killing hip hop. Oh, the good old days. I'm not that guy. I don't care about that. But I do find it hard to fit in a place where everything's kind of loose and everybody's the greatest of all time and everybody's a legend all of a sudden. And I don't know. I just feel awkward. And I guess that's the artsy part of me, because going back to the Iggy Pop quote, I just don't feel like I want to belong. I could do it, and my roots are in it, and that's where I came up in. But where it is now and where I am now as an artist, it doesn't match.
So what was it about the beats? Because I mean, you guys did 7 or 8 songs.
I couldn't even tell you, man. It's not like DJ Premier came knocking on my door and handing me like 20 beats. It was just like, I never heard a damn before in my life.
Me neither.
And to be honest, to be honest with you, it's not like I'm looking at Mark O'Connell as some hip hop dude. So it's a very, you couldn't make this shit up. It doesn't even make sense. It's almost like the same thing of me when I was putting out Between Heaven and Hell, and all of a sudden I'm on tour opening for Korn with Stillwell. Again, it doesn't make any sense. So when I look at these kind of incidents, that's more of the universe. I can't, and in my case, I know where you stand on it. My case, that's God is in that. That's where me and Rakim are kind of like.
Yeah, man.
I agree. That's God.
I respect for sure.
Because it becomes something that doesn't make sense, and I can't explain it with math or. Because honestly, you could have introduced me to Mark, and if I would have blown him off, and he would have never
met Mike.
Mike, when would that happen? Never. I don't. So you got to kind of look at it in an odd way. Like, why would he bump into Mike Dijan out of all people on the fucking planet?
And why would
that doesn't make any sense?
Why would King's Bounty like come up, or like how even he knew? Like, I don't know. Yeah, all that shit.
So, yeah, the whole thing is just strange. So where we're at right now is we're still recording stuff. We're looking for an engineer to get the proper mix.
Did you get the mix back today?
We got one mix back.
Yeah, I listened to it.
I didn't approve. So we have to move forward, and we have to find the. We have to see. I don't want to get too far ahead. We have to see what it's going to be. But the songs themselves are really fucking cool, man.
They're great. Like, I listened to it, like the flow, like you still sound like a hungry dude. Like, you just.
That's what's crazy. That's another thing that's crazy, because you would think somebody that just admitted to you, well, I was kind of done for the moment. You would think I would come back sloppy, and because you can hear when a rapper is either out of touch, or any musician. You can tell when a musician, bottom line, is out of touch and out of practice. You could tell. I don't care if it's rock, country, rap. You could tell. It's very easy to tell when somebody just does not have a grip on what's going on, or is not in sync with themselves to create something.
I guess it's such an inner love, that you have to, like, if you're not feeling that vibe, but you have something to replace it with, which is a lot of rock projects, like something like Radamus, which came out of nowhere. Like, I don't even, like, I'm like, who is this? And I hit play. I was like, kind of sounds like Cute, but I'm not sure. And it
is.
So, okay.
Radamus is an interesting one, because Radamus, out of everything that I'm doing, Radamus is more of a project that goes beyond just a group of guys trying to make a metal band. Radamus is the brainchild of a fellow jiu-jitsu practitioner that I train with, and who also is a teacher, actually. And he's a guitar player. And years ago, he had heard the Stillwell stuff, and we would talk here and there. And then finally I heard him shredding on something, and I was like, dude, we should work on something. And initially he was like, nah, I'm good.
He shreds.
Yeah, he can rip.
He was shredding.
So finally we get to this place where he was like, I want to do this thing where I want to create music, but the music, it's got to be beyond music, where what we're doing is there to help people get through challenges in life. And as soon as he said it, I was like, that's crazy. I don't know too many people that have a mission statement with their music. So it was like, he had my attention. I was like, that's crazy to be able to help a community. Let's say in this case, because it's very particular, that it's a community of metalheads and they're struggling with life and challenges. And we create this music to speak to them, to want to do better, to want to stay positive and disciplined. And that's how this person thinks. So when he said it to me, I was like, oh shit, that's beyond anything I was thinking. So Radamus, the name is my dad's name. My dad is Puerto Rican. His name is Radames.
Okay.
And when I was a kid, I used to hear his name and I would think, man, that sounds like some gladiator shit, So I took his name, we spelled it differently, and we called it Radamus. And it became, excuse me, it became this character, and we have this whole thing mapped out. It's almost like a graphic novel. And it's really interesting what that is becoming. But it's not really a band. It's more of like I said, it's more of this fountain of feel good and maintaining people's positive, uplifting people through positive music. It's really interesting.
It sounds very challenging to sing. Like it's almost like a cross between like a Kill Switch and almost like King Diamond in like some way. Like you're getting up there, the harmonies.
It's very challenging.
Yeah,
it's different for me. Very different for me from what I'm doing with Stillwell and King's Bounty, and that was what I enjoyed about it. It is challenging. I can't even disagree with you there. It's different for me. He has me singing in a different pocket.
It's up there, man. Like I'm like listening to it, going like, first of all, I was just impressed because I was like, listen to this motherfucker hit. I'm like, the dude from 14 years of rap is like listen to this guy, motherfucker right here. But so that's great. That's what you said before, which I love. And it's funny because life is on pause now. So someone like you, someone like me, I like having enough time to almost get everything done.
Yes.
Like my plate needs to be filled. Like I need to, like I work great under pressure. If you give me 1 hour to do 10 things, I'll do it. If you give me 10 hours to do one thing, I won't. So now with this thing, man, it's like, it's such a pause, and lately I feel like life isn't moving, so I don't have that inspiration. I don't have that drive. Like yesterday I wrote a song and I was like, all right, whatever, I'll just put it up on Instagram. But it just, like for me, like life, still, I need to move and stuff. But I mean, I guess you're doing fine because like let's go to Stillwell.
No, you know what you just said. A lot of my friends that are more on the art side of doing things,
mm-hmm.
We're all kind of like in the same struggle. I'm not gonna lie to you. I think there is a side to me that kind of like is very militant, where I push myself, and in my head there's like this mean person that says you're a piece of shit if you don't get this done.
Yes.
So it becomes really odd in that sense, where I'll push myself, and I have this frame of mind where now that I've been playing guitar for a little while now, that if I'm not coming up with lyrics, I'll lay the groundwork with, some chords and put it down, and I'll mumble the notes to
Always.
where I want it to be, but I don't necessarily have the words, and then I'll leave it and I'll move on to something else, and I'll write around. It's not all great, but my mentality and my discipline is chip away at it and put something down, because something is better than nothing.
Yeah, it's for me like 90% of the time it's all about melody. So my music is very melody based. So I do the mumble. I do the mumbles.
Yeah.
And sometimes we'll practice and I'm like mumbling shit. But as long as the melody is down, like I'll just write the lyrics later on.
Yes.
And one of the things that sucks, man, we were recording with Jerry Farley out over by you, kind of. You know Jerry, right?
No.
Jerry Farley, really?
No.
Nah. But he
maybe I do by face. No.
Yeah. He recorded the last Sick of It All record.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Cool.
Okay,
yeah. So we were, man, I was finishing up the vocals, and then I was gonna go back, and then this shit happened, and it's like, oh, I don't know. Like, I wish I would have just had that 5-song batch to kind of like, through the pipeline. Because when you're sitting at home, the Q Unique page does a great job on Facebook because it's constantly feeding songs from the catalog. So from there, people just it's like, oh shit, I haven't heard this song in a minute. I've never heard this song. So when you're sitting doing nothing, it's nice to kind of like go through the phone and be like, all right, got to throw this, got to fucking edit this. And
the thing is, I have to. It's like I said, if I don't do that, I feel whack. Like I feel like, man, don't get lazy. Give them, put up a song that was done 7 years ago. It doesn't matter because my audience isn't big enough to it's not like I'm a Jay-Z catalog where everybody knows everything. So it's hard for him to sneak something past people. I could sneak a track I did 5 years ago and people be like, what the fuck is this? So I have that angle, which is always cool. I think with the other stuff, it gets kind of tricky. With King's Bounty, we're sitting on so much music, but I share that with Mike, and Mike is more of a traditionalist, so I can't just go on a rampage and just throw songs out because, that's my boy, and in order to keep things balanced, we have to compromise. You know how that is.
Yeah, and
bands,
my God,
very,
you don't
very,
even.
I mean, for me, it's harder. He knows it. He knows it's hard for me because if it was up to me, we probably would have had 2 albums out already, or 4 EPs or whatever. I'm wild that way. Where I tend not to think too much of the whole business side of things and the strategies. And I know he's right. I don't like it. So that's why I'm so like all over the place when it comes to throwing things out there because I'm not a fan of that stuff.
Well, also like hip hop is such a, especially now, it's constant shit. Like it's like single.
Oh,
single.
jeez.
You know what I'm saying? But like you guys are moving strategic for sure on King's Bounty. Like you guys, you have your a couple of singles, but you guys are moving straight, methodical. And is Howie behind all that too?
No, right now we're working with Vaughn Lewis, Strong Management, Strong Entertainment. They manage Killswitch Engage.
Okay.
And he was the one that re-released Denial through his
killer hook.
Thank you.
I mean,
thank you.
You just listen to it and you just wait for that.
Thank you. We and the thing, what's interesting about that is that that's not even what King's Bounty sounds like today. It's like, but I have to, especially now, it sucks. I have to be so patient with what it is that we're going through and dig into my basket and be like, this is what else we're doing. We covered a Devo song and we're going to drop that. I was waiting for some footage. So I'm actually editing the video for that. And, we're getting that out. So at least I got Mike to agree to something.
Yeah.
He's a tough customer, man. So we got this cover song coming out and which leads to Stillwell. Mike, my son, and Fieldy have a lot to do with what's going on new with Stillwell because of the whole me switching spots with Fieldy, where Fieldy went back to bass. I picked up the guitar and wrote this whole album. And
did you really?
Yes.
On guitar?
Man, it's again, it's bizarre. It started 2 years ago. I want to say 2, maybe a little longer.
Yeah.
My son was sitting in the room with me. He plays, like for real plays. So we're sitting there.
That's the one you mentioned, right? In the song?
Yeah. Yes.
Coco.
So we're sitting there and he's like real simple with certain approaches. And he's like, we're just talking back and forth about various things. He goes, can I ask you a question? I was like, what's up? He goes, you've been doing rock for a while now. Like people know.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah. He goes, like, you really doing it? Like you're putting out albums, like you've been on tour, you hang out with rockers, like you're doing. I'm like, okay. So he goes, you own 2 very expensive guitars, you know. I'm like, yeah. So he goes, how come you don't play them as much as you should? I mean, you do rock. And it felt like somebody slapped the shit out of me when he said it. Like,
Oh,
I had
man.
no rebuttal. I just stared at, cause I toyed around with it, but not to the degree of what he was talking about. So I'm just like staring at him, like, finally I was like, you know what? I have no answer for you. And as soon as he said it and walked away, that started a journey for me where every day, like I said, remember I was just talking about how tapped I am, I become militant. So I picked up the guitar every day from anywhere from 45 minutes to 5 to 6 hours of playing where my wrist was on fire and playing and really understanding what the fuck it was that I was doing.
You got the calluses?
Yeah, all of that. All of that. Sometimes playing to the point where I forget what time it is, and then you look at the time and you're like, how fucking long I've been playing for?
Oh,
holy shit!
Yeah,
you know
that's me, man.
So yeah, so I'm playing, and there's one story I share with people where I'm like, I was doing it every day, and I was making sure I was playing every single day, like it wasn't a joke to me. And there was one day where I got up early and we went out and we were driving around and we were walking around Park Slope, and then I got home and it was late and I laid down. It was like 1 a.m. and I'm laying there and I'm real tired. All of a sudden I open my eyes. I go, fuck, I didn't play. And I got up, went to my studio, turned on the light, picked up the guitar and played for 2 hours and made sure I got it in. I became obsessed. And then I went into this, a year prior to this, me and Fieldy started writing a new still. It was a surprise to me that he even wanted to do it. He wanted to write another one. And we began writing it on keyboard because I'm more familiar with playing keyboard than I am with guitar. So now that look, man, I'm not even close to what you, my son, Mike, or anybody else can play. I'm a baby. But I was more familiar with what it was that I was looking for. That's what was important.
Yeah.
I knew what I was looking for, and Wuv described it to me. He gave me what it was what Stillwell became. So what ended up happening was I was listening to what we played on keyboard, and I immediately went to the guitar and said, well, that's this chord, that's this chord. And I started playing and laying it down and then singing on top of it. So then I got a few demos done. I brought it to Fieldy and he was like, that's it. You're the guitar player. That's it. And so
that's,
we went on this
listen, that's pretty, let me just cut you off for a minute because fucking Fieldy from Korn believes in you.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Like this isn't like a local band. Like this dude plays like arenas and he's seen amazing players and he has enough faith in you, and I think it just comes down to the fact that certain people are just you're born with songs in your head and you just have to get them out, and you could either do them through rapping or keyboards, and now you're doing it through guitars because you have these songs, and I think once you're good at songwriting, which is the key to everything that we do anyway, it's great.
The most important.
Yeah, you get a dude like fucking, like, it's like, Fieldy, who's been, basically doing his thing, being like, this is the album, man. That's got to be great.
That and what Wuv said, because Wuv has been obviously with the Stillwell journey since we started. And when he heard these songs, he was like, now this sounds like a band, number one. It's not like 50,000 things going on. Now it sounds like a band, number one. Number two, now you're playing to how you want it to sound, which is extremely important. It's not like Fieldy or somebody handing you a riff and you're trying to stab around to figure out where everything is supposed to go.
Yeah.
You're actually, because the way I write is I sing it first and then I lay the bed. So the singing and the melody comes out first.
Oh shit, that's interesting because
and then I put everything around it. So I'll sing it. I'll play piano to what I'm singing, figure out where the chords are. Then I grab the guitar, play it. It's a lot, but it is what it is. And now I'm starting to add, because Fieldy was like, okay, we did this first album and you did fucking great. but now you got to learn to be a little more creative on the fretboard.
Sure.
So you could still play the chords you want, but learn to throw little
things,
details. You know, you're a guitar player.
Yeah,
so
for sure. Yeah.
So now I'm playing riffs before I sing and laying it down and having more fun that way. So it's bizarre. I forgot who told me recently. Somebody said to me, I think it was Monkey, because Monkey has been like pushing me the whole way. And he was like, what you're doing, you probably could have did at any point in your life. It just so happened to happen now. But what you're doing, you probably would have picked up a guitar at 7 and the same thing would have happened, because you were destined to do this. It's just, this is when you did it.
Amazing.
So when he said that, I was like, man, that's crazy. I didn't even think of that. You know?
But at least your son, like your son, like of all people, to just be like, it's even cooler, Yeah,
it was perfect. I mean, because somebody like him, he's going to make an impact, because he's somebody that I could trust, because even when I've done subpar, like the comedy that I always tell people is, when you listen to the current Stillwell catalog, not with the new album, just the first 2 that we put out, right? That first album is for me, it's rough to listen to. It's very hard to listen to because it's very sloppy and it's all over the place. It's not cohesive. It's just not good. And my son, when we did the second album, we brought in a producer and he was able to make us better. Let's just keep it simple.
For sure.
So when I gave him the second album to listen to, he took a few days. He came back. He was like, now this is good. And I was like, okay. And he goes, but this is how he ended. He goes, because that first album that you guys did, I couldn't even put that on my phone. It was so bad. I was like, holy shit.
Yo, I like the honesty, man. Because if anyone's going to give it to you.
You need that, though.
When we play live, everyone's like, oh, blah, blah, blah. But I go to my bass player's wife. And I'm like, how was that? Because she'll be like, that was great. Or, you guys have played better.
You got a good voice.
Oh, man. Thank you.
Good range. To me, I like watching you, man. And like when we were talking, I guess a few months ago, it's like, I do want to do a show with you.
For
like,
sure.
Because you're in the, like, for what I do with King's Bounty and or Stillwell, you're in the same lane. Like it's singer-songwriter stuff. Like it's well thought out stuff. So I like it.
That would be a trip, if life gets back to normal anytime soon.
Yeah, I know. Right?
That's
a whole other.
But
that's a whole other roulette game.
Cool, man. And just real quick, before we talk about the movies, I just wanted to ask you, how did that Yola Tango remix happen?
So Arsonist, we were signed to Matador Records. We were the first
yeah.
rap group signed to Matador Records, and I was the chief producer. I mean, there were other producers, Destroy produced and Freestyle produced on the album as well. But I was the guy that was in the studio most of the time, well, all of the time, making sure everything was getting done. And what ended up happening was Matador kind of noticed that about me with the music and everything. And they were like, hey, would you want to give a shot at remixing one of our bands? I was like, fuck yeah. And I think I was looking at Cat. Was the name of the band Cat Power?
Yeah, Cat Power. Chan Marshall. She was on the LP album as well.
I wanted to remix one of her songs, but it didn't happen. And then they gave me the Yola Tango. And at the time, I wish it was now. If it was today, it would have been, oh man, I would have been. Back then, I didn't really understand what it was I was getting involved in. I just knew that they gave me a clip. All they did was give me a clip of what it was. And when I say clip, might have been about 15 seconds, 30 seconds of something. And they were like, this is called Dan Electro. And at the time, being in the Arsonist and where my head was at the time, I didn't even know what Dan Electro meant.
Especially with a name like Yola Tango. I'm like, oh yeah, let me get these Spanish dudes.
Yeah, so the whole thing was bizarre to me. But but it was just, it's one of those things that I know it didn't hit big and it wasn't like some phenomenon, but it's one of those things that I'm like, I'm happy that I was a part of that, because it was like, I don't know if you say a shadow or kind of like a shape of things to come, because later on would be Stillwell and King's Bounty and all of these odd things that I'm involved in. You know?
Pieces of the puzzle, man. Like, you know, it's a lot of fun to, you know, I'm sure it's fun for me to look at your career. I'm sure it's a lot of fun for you because you were there. And I'm glad Destroy is doing his thing over at with Sirius, right?
Yes. Yeah. He's another one that inspires me, because he's become a self-made machine. Like right now he's got his own little show that he does a live feed where he talks to artists about their collections. So if they collect action figures or movies or comics or music memorabilia or sneakers or whatever, he's interviewing them and asking them to show it into the screen. And it's an idea he's had for a while, and to watch him like do it and edit it and all of this, it's magical for me. It's like that's so fucking cool.
Also the best verse in Pyromaniacs, Burning Blazing Hot.
Yes, I mean he was that dude, man. He was that dude.
Boom, 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 boom. So good.
He's that dude, man. He's not in the lane, but he's one of those dudes that can spit. But it's weird. I don't know how to explain it. I'm trying to compare him to an artist that knew they could do something but just didn't do it.
Yeah.
So weird. That's him, you know?
Well, that was the shit, man. I love that record, obviously, you know. Yeah. So before we do the movies thing, and we were talking about guitars, like, what are some of your favorite guitar players?
Some of my favorite guitar players would be Tom Morello.
Okay.
And I love, what I love about him is sound. And what I mean by sound is like, I'm never going to be a shredder. It's not because I can't do it, but because it's not my thing. My brain doesn't digest that stuff.
Same.
The way most people do. So when Tom Morello's scratching or making some feedback sound, I'm like, that's art to me. That's fucking amazing. Jerry Cantrell. I mean, to me,
so good.
His riffs, oh my God.
Yeah.
and you know, the experience that I had with him over the last summer.
The tour,
oh my God, yo. If you don't mind, I'm sorry for just detouring really quickly.
I would listen, man. I just listened the other 2 weeks ago. I listened to the self-titled for the first time in a while from beginning to end, because when that record came out, like, you know, Lane was, you know, kind of like on his way out, kind of sort of like just really not there mentally. But that record was so depressing that it was just kind of like hard to listen to. But man, listening to it now, like Grind and like those songs, the musicianship and Jerry's songwriting, and you understand that he was almost like 80% of that band, because he's singing almost everything. It's just Lane is harmonizing. That's why those newer records still sound like Alice in Chains, because it's still fucking Jerry Cantrell.
You're right.
Oh, so good. So good.
So let me tell you the quick story of what happened. I'll keep it real quick. We're in Long Island. We're in catering, and Jerry's walking around with an acoustic guitar. He's just playing. And in my head, I'm already fucking freaky, because that's my era. I don't like to say grunge, because I don't believe that that's what it was.
No.
But for the sake of people understanding what I'm talking about, alternative rock grunge was my shit.
Absolutely.
That's my shit. It wasn't metal. It wasn't hardcore. I love it, but my shit was that stuff. That's what attracted me. So I'm already flipping, because he's a superhero to me. So I'm watching him. I'm like, this is nuts. So I'm sitting there, and he comes right in fucking front of me, and he's playing. So I'm at that point, I'm like a child. I'm like, this is surreal. And then he stops, and he starts to tune, or he's just standing there. Everybody's just chilling. And I'm scared to even talk to him. So I go, hey, could you play Voices off the, the Devil Put Dinosaurs Here? I think that album is phenomenal. So I was like, can you play the song Voices? Because it means something to me personally.
Okay.
And so he's like, he looks at me, he goes, sure. So he's his guitar and he starts playing it. Right?
Man.
So in my head, I'm like, if I don't sing along, I'm a fucking clown.
Yeah.
So the first few notes, my voice is quivering because I'm not sure if he's gonna fucking flip. I don't know him, so I'm scared. Like I'm gonna sing while Jerry Cantrell plays guitar is weird,
Yeah, yeah.
And then finally I start singing and we're like going at it together for a while, and everybody's like with their camera phones, and I'm like, I can't fucking believe this is happening right now, man.
That was great. I saw the video and I was just like, man, I was just living through you, because same thing, man. It's like we're not too far off in age, and Alice in Chains, like just those records were like everything, growing up.
Everything.
Yeah, like to this day, like you listen to the acoustic stuff or the main records, and the songwriting is so complex. The harmonies, like the fucking harmonies, are just so
outstanding.
Yeah, like how do you fucking do that?
I don't. They're perfect. And the other guitar player, Dean DeLeo, Stone Temple Pilots.
Yeah,
big band for me.
Sure.
For me, especially the first 2-3 albums, very important. I got to go see them when they were all intact, and Scott was, still in the band, and so to me, Dean. I mean, the story's kind of weird because I'm not sure if Dean wrote the riffs or Robert, the bass player, wrote the riffs. I'm not sure what the behind the scenes wiring was, but obviously I'm going to go with Dean because he is the guitar player of the band.
Sure.
But them, and then Chris Cornell, that's another one that's kind of like, from what I understand with Soundgarden, he was the riff guy.
I think so, yeah.
I don't think it was Kim. I think Kim played and they wrote songs together. But I think
everything started with Chris.
Right. So Chris Cornell, to me, obvious for both vocally and guitar reasons, for extremely obvious reasons. So that's my and then if you go into a little more current, and it's not going to be current, but like Bill and Brett from Mastodon, like Mastodon to me is like, people always look like Mastodon, like, yeah, Mastodon. I fucking love Mastodon.
Well, because their catalog is so, from the earlier stuff to today, it's so different. They keep evolving and making these things, and the songs are very complex, and there's like, all of them sing. I think it's like all four of them.
Yeah, the whole band is singing, and
which is fucking hard to do.
Very hard to do, and on top of the fact that, and it's something that I've told Mike, they have their own sound, and that's so important to me. That's especially today. It's so important to me to hear a band have its own signature sound. Nothing, they don't sound like, because I listen to radio rock. I do. I pay attention to what people are doing, how their song structure is. It's important to me. It's I have to understand what's going on. So when I compare Mastodon, who I love, to what's going on in radio world, it doesn't sound the same. A lot of the radio rock does sound the same. I'm not trying to bag on anyone. It just does. Just like a lot of rap and trap music, to me, it just sounds the same. I'm not trying to bag on it. It just has a lot of similarities.
It just facts. But I think in a lot of times, like in order for it to be appealing to the masses and not a niche group, you are going to have those patterns, because it's like, okay, this is a verse, this is a pre-chorus, this is the chorus, repeat, and that's kind of what people always wait for, that chorus. And there's nothing wrong with it. Play the Killers all day long, and I'm going to fucking sing Mr. Brightside till I lose my voice.
Yeah, some of those songs are amazing. I just came across another band that I didn't know about. I'm starting to discover, like, a lot of bands that have been around for a while. There's this band called Momentum.
Okay.
And I didn't, and I listened to it. I was like, man, this is really cool stuff, man. Like, I'm really digging this, So I've been like, what I do now, just like you, where you said, we're stuck on this timeout. So it's kind of hard to go out and experience life and then write about it when you're just stuck on timeout.
Yeah.
So I find myself digging deeper into, all right, what are these bands that I never heard of. What are they doing? You know, where can I draw some inspiration from? And so that's what I do. I go around and I'm listening to what other people are doing and getting an idea of, or trying to draw from the well of inspiration.
No, you do. It's inspiration, man. It's like Nirvana was influenced by the Pixies and sound nothing like the Pixies.
Exactly.
It's just you absorb certain things and it's like, oh, this is great, and then from there it filters through you as a songwriter, and you make it into whatever comes out of you. Have you listened to the band Baroness yet?
Oh, yes.
How fucking good are they?
I love the Blue album.
How good is that band?
It's so good. I remember playing it for somebody, and you know, because Baroness has a very like raw, like it's not polished as far as their recording is concerned.
The new record is pretty polished, and that's the one that I love the most. But I'll send it to you.
Okay, but the Blue album is really raw, and I remember playing it for like an engineer guy, and he couldn't get past the rawness of it. But I was like, man, you just got to listen to it, man. This shit is so fucking good. They're also very good. Very good band.
You listen to the songwriting. Like, that's why I'm able to listen to the Misfits, Walk Among Us from like 77. That sounds like shit.
Exactly.
You know, I forget what the name of the year. It might have been like 80. But I'm listening to the songs. Like, some things sound great. You know, you could listen to a great recording, but you could also, for me, you play a fucking rough demo or something that's raw. I'm going to listen to the song and be like, man, this song fucking is killer, and that's like the most important part, because everything, you know, not everything is going to sound the same.
I'll be honest with you. When I listen to your music, it's because of Instagram. So I'm hearing everything through a phone, and I'm like, man, that's fucking good, man. Like, I dig it. You know?
I'll take it. Before we finish this, I'm almost extended here, so I gotta arm another track, and then we'll do the movie talk, and then we'll finish.
Okay.
So give me 1 second.
Yep.
All right. I thought it'd be a lot of fun. You know, usually what I've been doing with the people that I've spoken to is it's fun to catch up and just talk about what's been going on, but also to kind of do like a little topic here. And I chose 5 underrated movies that we feel that maybe not a lot of people have heard of, that maybe we want to mention. So if you want to kick off your number 5.
So is it in any genre or?
Oh, just whatever. Doesn't matter.
Okay. Well, let's start with the conversation that you and I have had.
Yes.
Because I'm very passionate about this particular movie.
Okay.
It's not like I watch the movie a lot, but it's like one of those movies that I'm like, okay. So the movie's Black Christmas, and I'm talking about the original version,
Bob Clark,
from the 70s. I think, first of all, when they've tried to remake it, they tried to remake one, I forgot when, in the 90s.
2006.
2006. Okay. Wow.
Well, because it's called Black Xmas.
Okay. And then they try to remake it recently, and it's one of those things that when they do those remakes like that, it's one of those things that makes me lose faith in Hollywood horror movies currently, because it's just like, it feels like they're just like shooting in the dark constantly to try to come up with something. And when you touch a film like Black Christmas, it's like, especially when you fail twice, it's like, all right, look, stop trying to redo this movie. You know, you got really good actors in the movie, and the movie gives you this vibe. I remember watching it recently. It was late at night. And I'm a grown man. I remember watching it recently, and I felt fucking nervous watching it. I was like, yo, everything that they did in this movie, and some of the stuff I'm probably sure that, I'm not even sure if it was done on purpose. Like there's like a scene where the phone rings and it's so fucking loud and piercing that it makes you tense and nervous. And maybe they did do some stuff like that on purpose, but it's like the way it's so well pieced together, you're like, holy shit, dude, like you can't even touch this movie. It's like, come on, man, please.
So, yes. That movie, definitely on purpose, that Ringing. I recently watched it. It's funny because do you remember the first time you saw that movie? Like
I
what
was a kid. I was a little kid.
Okay.
And my father. There's times that I look at the dates of movies or things, and I call him and I question him like, "Yo, what were you thinking? Like showing me that shit? Like, are like, where was your head at?" And I was a kid. I don't remember if it was a VHS or whatever. I don't remember how it happened because obviously, when it came out, I wouldn't have been able to see it. But
74.
I remember when I was a little kid, and I remember being so fucking freaked out about it that I remember vividly waking up in an odd dream where I couldn't breathe, and I was having an out of body, like the movie fucked my head up, like The Exorcist did. Like those two movies really fucked with me mentally because when my father had shown them to me, I was just way too young to understand what it was that I was looking at. So it was just like, it's extremely shocking to me. When you're a kid and you don't understand what ugly is, and then somebody just shows you the most extremely ugly thing in your life, you're not going to really absorb that really well. So
no, and that's the beauty of watching something at that age, because it attaches. That's why even as an adult, like you said, when you watch it at night, it still has that feeling, because I have that feeling with Halloween, the 78 one, because
Yes.
When I watched that movie, I remember seeing it as a kid. And in theory, the same thing as Black Christmas, there's not really much blood or gore.
No.
It's just the overall vibe of the movie is so, I don't know, like it almost like just
captured the right vibe, man. Holy shit.
It entered our psyche, because I would have these reoccurring Michael Myers dreams. And even as an adult today, if I were to sit in my living room and watch the original Halloween, like I still get this feeling of like it's like my skin crawls.
It's so crazy.
But to talk about Black Christmas, I saw it for the first time as an adult, so I hated it.
You're talking about the 70s one?
Yes. So I watched it at Nighthawk Cinema. They did a midnight screening, and I was like, you know what? I've never seen this movie. Bob Clark made it. He fucking made Porky's and a Christmas Story after. I'm like, this is the shit. And I fucking watch it, and I feel what it is the way kids that watch Halloween, the 78 one,
yes,
like there's no attachment to it. You're watching this thing that's slow and nothing really happens. So when I saw it as an adult, I was like, oh, it didn't connect with me. But I completely agree that it's a great pick for you, for sure, because not a lot of people, the people that know it, love it, and to defend the remake, which I haven't seen. I saw the 2006 one. I loved it because it was grotesque.
Yeah, I didn't like it. I was so annoyed with it, but go ahead.
But the new one, I think what the new one's trying to do, because so much time has passed, is they already have Q. They want to get 17-year-old Q in 2020 to basically connect with that story. But anyway, so I'll go to my number 5. My number 5 is Identity, which is John Cusack's movie, where it's like all these people, and they meet up in a hotel room, and they're all there by chance. And
I didn't see that one. Yeah. I saw the advertisement for it. I was like, what is this shit?
One of the best John Cusack movies. And so basically the plot is that it's just these strangers all meet up in this hotel room, and then as they realize that they're there for a reason, and the movie begins. So that's my number 5. You got number 4?
Yes. Number 4, this is going to be a funny one.
Okay.
And I actually just posted about this because I tried to watch it recently, and on my Fire Stick was jerking around, so I couldn't. I was getting frustrated. I was like, I'm not going to watch this. Time Bandits.
Oh, go ahead.
It's
so
it's
good.
a movie. It's a movie that kind of like got forgotten when it came out. I think it was a hit, but it's obviously with the onslaught of Hollywood and just churning out movies, it falls into a forgotten pile. And I posted a picture, and people were inboxing, messaging me, oh shit, Time Bandits, I forgot. And I was like, yeah, people forgot. I think George Harrison had something to do with executive producer of that film, and it's got members of Monty Python in it, and just a really good
good movie,
fantasy film, man. And people forgot about it, man. Maybe some of the animation might be shitty because it's from the 80s, but it's a good movie.
Great movie, and obviously you remember the ending.
Yes, of course.
Horrifying. As a kid, it was horrifying. Because it's just horrifying. I'm not going to ruin it for anyone, but it's fucking horrifying. If that were to happen to you, you'd be like, wait, what? How is this even allowed to? Why is this movie? Because that was like 84. So you figure I'm watching it as like a 6-year-old, and I'm just thinking like, how is this even allowed to end like this? This can't be the way.
It was a strange ending, and that goes to show you 80s, and obviously it was made in England, so the British have a different perspective on life in itself. So the ending is definitely offbeat, and you're like, what the fuck?
Yeah, I'll never forget that, because it just stuck with me. So my number 4 is a disaster movie from 1988 that I was actually going to talk to the director, because I'm friends with him on Facebook, and all this shit happened. I still might, but it's a movie called Miracle Mile. And did you ever hear this?
No.
Okay, so Anthony Edwards from Revenge of the Nerds is in it, and it's he is wakes up late for a date, because his alarm clock or like the power went off, and he intercepts this phone call in a phone booth back in the day, obviously, and the phone call on the other end is somebody telling him that the nukes are coming, and they're finally, whatever master plan was coming, and he was like, is this a joke? And he hangs up. So, he goes into the diner and tells these people the phone call, and the movie starts from there. And it's fucking... This movie, I was 10. It scared the shit out of me. This was the first... I don't know if, not to get morbid, but I don't remember if... where you were or how old you were when you realized that everything ends and we're all going to die.
With the whole nuclear holocaust that was supposed to happen.
Yeah.
In the 80s? Yeah. Because
it just made you it reminded me, I was 10 and I was like, oh shit. I'm like, I guess eventually everything ends and we're all going to die. And this movie this movie made me feel that, and it ruined my life basically, but I love it. It's so good.
Oh my God. That's pretty fucking crazy. I got to check that one out.
All right. So number 3.
Yes. Suicide Kings with Christopher Walken and Dennis Leary.
So good.
Another movie that becomes a forgotten movie. And what's crazy about that movie, it's well written and well acted and full of just moments where you're just like at the edge of your seat. And Christopher Walken is always engaging. Dennis Leary was magical. And it's like, I always tell people, see this movie when you get a chance. It's such a fucking good movie, man. All the little plot twists and I don't even want to dive into it too deep, but Suicide Kings.
The ensemble cast was amazing. All the young actors, like Jay Moore, all these dudes. That's a good pick. I remember watching it. It was 1997, and I remember I invited a girl to see it, and we went to go see it.
Really good movie, man. Really, really, really good movie. That's what happens. That we're so chocked full of movies that it just becomes one of those things where movies get lost, man. It's a crime, but what are you going to do? That's the nature of the business.
The beauty of podcasting is these conversations are happening. There's 100 million people talking on a podcast right now, and someone's going to listen to it, and they're going to be like, oh shit, Miracle Mile, I remember, I want to listen to that. Same thing with music. These are the conversations now that get thrown into orbit, and when people listen to it, you just, I don't know. I don't know, to me, when I listen to any podcast, I'm like, oh shit, I haven't heard fucking, I don't know, Crowbar in 10 years. Let me listen to them.
Yeah, you're right.
Right. And that's the beauty of it. So my number 3 is a movie that I texted you about. It's called I Saw the Devil, and it's South Korean, and it's one of the best movies of the last 10 years. Unfucking real. So within the first 5 or 10 minutes, you realize there's a serial killer. He kills someone. It happens to be the girlfriend of a special agent. So the rest of the movie, the special agent tortures this serial killer. Like, it's just basically catch and release. So he catches him and beats the shit out of him and releases him, and that's basically a cat and mouse.
Who is the lead actor in that movie?
It's South Korean, and yeah.
Okay.
So
I know exactly. Okay, I know what you're talking about. Yep.
So it's a reversal, like a serial killer reversal movie, and it's when I tell you watch it, and by the end you're gonna be like, holy fucking shit, unbelievable. But so that brings me to your number 2.
Yes, number 2. And I just finished watching this movie. You know, when certain movies that you like pop on, you're like, oh, you know what? I'm gonna watch this shit. My number 2 movie is District 9.
Okay.
I think that for a science fiction movie and for a movie that tackles some real human issues, but in a very creative way, and everything about that, I love everything about that movie. That movie actually surprised me because I didn't know what it was that I was about to watch. It was one of those type of movies, and I was like, man, that was fucking phenomenal. Really good.
Did you watch it in the movies or for the first time?
I think I watched it on. I think I watched it on cable because
Okay.
I wasn't sure when it came out in the movies, and I remember people talking about like, "Whoa, this movie's crazy," and then
it slipped through the cracks. Like, it was one of those movies that was highly anticipated and promoted. I remember all the promos.
Because Peter Jackson had produced it or something like that.
Yeah, and it slipped through the cracks, but I know people remember. I still haven't seen it.
It's really fucking. It's done really well for especially for science fiction. It's like, whoa, okay, because it's edgy. It's wild. It's a wild movie, man.
Well, I fuck with science fiction, so
yeah,
I'm in.
So it's really good.
Number 2 is a movie from 87, 88, 89 with my boy Lou Diamond Phillips, and it's a movie no one remembers. It's called The First Power.
I don't remember that. Wow.
So this one is about this detective, and it's Lou Diamond Phillips, and he finds Satan, and basically Satan, the devil, whatever the fuck, is killing people, and he's jumping from body to body, and just a lot of really cool evil sequences back when Lou Diamond Phillips ruled the world. You know, he was
the man for a minute.
This was post Young Guns, post La Bamba. But it's fun. It's a fun action movie with huge elements of horror, and always entertaining and batshit crazy because it doesn't make any sense. But that was the 80s, and
yeah.
When you throw Satan in the mix, you just end up with a movie like this. So what's your number 1 underrated
my
movie
number 1
of all
now?
time?
I want to give you a disclaimer before I say my number 1. My number 1. Obviously, in time, it could change these top 5, but right now, this is me thinking on the. But this movie is another forgotten movie, and it's important to me because of its theme. And the movie's called Finding Forrester, and it's with Sean Connery. And the movie is about, without giving too much away, it's about this young kid, black kid, who something happens where he bumps into the character Forrester. I forgot the character's full name, but and Forrester happens to be like this award-winning book writer, and he disappeared into society, and the kid was in a private school, and he had to write this paper, and he happened to know Forrester. And Forrester, the reason why this movie meant so much to me, because the theme was based on writing and being a writer and having to connect to being a writer and how to get the flow out and just writing anything. And me being a lyricist, that's why I connected so much to the movie, because what they were talking about was extremely important to me. That's why the movie meant so much to me. The acting was great, and Busta Rhymes is actually in the movie too.
It was Sean Connery, and it was like a black kid, right? Like he was like the main kid, like those. You want to know a funny thing? So maybe like a couple of days ago, I'm like sitting here, and we would always like me and my friend Brian would always like say this to each other. You're the man now, dog. And I was like, yo, where's that movie from? I swear to God, like 2-3 days ago, I'm like sitting there thinking like, I was gonna like IMDb Sean Connery and like get, and I'm like, yo, I would say, you're the man now, dog, because it was so ridiculously funny. And I never saw the movie. I just remember the trailer. And that's what he said in the trailer. And it was, as a kid, we found that funny. And it's Finding Forrester. That's the name of the fucking movie. Unreal. Yes. What's up, universe?
There you go. See?
Holy shit.
Now you can go and watch. It's really like more of a heartfelt. Now, you as a writer as well, it's something that you'll connect to because there's a lot of gems in there that they talk about with writing. And that's why the movie, when I say it to certain people, they don't get it. And they're like, oh, they think I'm going to just spit Goodfellas or something. And it's like, yeah, that's a great movie too. But if we're talking about movies that people miss, or a movie that has a certain impact on you, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like that movie, especially because of the writer theme, it was like, wow, this is so fucking
That's what this
good.
list is. Like your list, definitely my list, is like shit that is off the beaten path. Like I can give you 5 movies that you definitely heard of.
Yeah, of course. It's easy. I think sometimes if a movie's that good, like a Goodfellas, like
all right, not Goodfellas, but how about Casino? No,
you know what?
I'm just kidding.
Okay.
No, I'm just saying, like, it's like that's like the B side. It's like, no, everyone saw that movie too.
Exactly. Scarface. Yeah, I know.
Yeah. Yo, Scarface. I got you. Scarface is like my stepdad. I swear, like that VHS, like my parents, my mom's Dominican, my dad's Colombian, and they were never home, and that VHS raised me.
That could be dangerous, actually.
Yeah. Well, I'm alive, so far so
right,
good.
Exactly.
So Finding Forrester, and so that brings me to my number 1, which is a 1995 movie called The Last Supper. This was a movie that HBO showed all the time. I think it's pretty funny given the times now. Not so much the pandemic, but as far as like the vibe in the country. So, I'm
looking it up. Everything you're saying, I'm looking up as you.
So this movie has Bill Paxton in it, which is one of my favorite actors of all time. He's eating with these college liberals. A fight breaks out, and Bill Paxton, who's this, I don't know if he was like a Midwest guy. I don't know where they were exactly, but he was like conservative, and he was like yelling at these like college liberals and whatever. And one of them, they got into a fight, and Bill Paxton, within like the first 5 or 10 minutes of the movie, gets accidentally stabbed. So he ends up dying, and the rest of the movie, these college students decide to themselves that maybe that wasn't such a bad thing that happened because he was this like racist, whatever. So they decide to invite people that they have these opposing views with, and they have a blue wine and a red wine. The blue wine is poisonous. The red wine is the good wine. So they'll have these random people that they all disagree with for dinner, and it's like this judge and jury executioner table.
Wow.
Without the people that they're inviting knowing. So they all have to approve, whether they live or die. And it's a pretty deep movie, man. But
that's heavy. I definitely got to check that out. That's heavy.
Peep that one, man. That's it has Ron Eldard, Cameron Diaz.
I'm looking at the poster right now, man.
Cool. Yo, so it's really good. Hopefully you'll check it out. I haven't seen Finding Forrester, but if it's your number 1, then that's a big deal. And thank you so much for kind of checking in and hanging with me for tonight.
Oh man, thank you for inviting me, man. This was a blast. Now you got me in. You're already segueing me to the point where I'm gonna hang up and fire up the fire stick and just veg out for a little bit.
The Last Supper. If you're gonna go with any, The Last Supper and Miracle Mile, those two are intense.
Definitely check out let me write that down, Miracle Mile.
But cool, man. So I don't know. I'll put this up soon, and I'm sure
I'll share it on my pages and all of that.
Yeah.
Thank you, man.
Yeah, thank you so much, man. This was a lot of fun.
All right, bro. We'll be talking.
I'll talk to you later, Q.
All right, take it easy.
Bye.